Hello and welcome to the GIS VSI series, where we're talking exclusively with Natalie Atkinson, a former CEO of Curzon Ashton and Southport Football Club, current director at both Fair Game UK and Her Game 2, and alumni of VSI's CEO of a sports organisation. Thanks very much for joining us, Natalie.
You're welcome. Hi, Holly.
Hi. So to start things off, can you tell us about your role as director at Fair Game UK and just what that involves?
Yeah, so I got involved with Fair Game coming up to a year ago, and the organisation was obviously set up by football fans, football clubs, experts and politicians that wanted to support the campaign that was being led around the fan-led review, so to directly work with Tracy Crouch and her team to establish the needs and wants of football going forward, and how we looked at developing a manifesto that was around a fairer distribution of funds, rewarding good practice, integrity, sustainability, and community within the game. So I got involved and was asked to be director of engagement. So my role involves working with our current Fair Game clubs, of which there are 30 odd, and then working to encourage more clubs to come on board, because one of our aims is that if we have more clubs, we have a louder, a more prominent voice within the football area of engagement with our clubs. So it was very much about using the links that I've got from my career in terms of working with clubs, but then also working with our director of stakeholder and policy around how can we do some more, lots of research in terms of the game, whether that be around women in the game, whether that be research into policy around football, and we've done a couple of events up to now, and we're hosting an International Women's Day event as well, which would be great. So working very closely with the other directors to ensure that we're delivering the right policies for our clubs and that we're a voice for our club, and that's where the clubs that we have on board and the wider network within the pyramid. And it's really important that we get the message out there in terms of that fairer distribution of funding, the sustainability index that we've we've developed and presented to Parliament MPs on, and that we can get more politicians and MPs on board as well to support the campaign, and obviously directly working, hopefully, with Tracy Crouch and her team.
That's really interesting. So you have a similar role at Her Game too. Can you tell us a bit about that? And sort of, I guess, the focus of women in football specifically.
Yeah, Her Game too. What an organisation. They're just phenomenal. So the Her Game 2 campaign was set up in May of last year by a group of fans that had suffered really terrible abuse whilst watching football on the terraces. One of the partners of Fair Game, and then I just started to have a couple more calls with them. And then just towards the end of last year, they asked me to become on as a director and advisor. And I have, with the team, we've developed a strategy that we're going to launch for the next 12 months. And also we've applied to become a community interest company as well. So our aim is to campaign, research, educate, and then really long term is start to tackle something that I'm really passionate about, as are the Her Game 2 team, is start to tackle what football looks like in terms of off the field. As we know, the game is flourishing on the field, and there's more and more media exposure and more commerciality to the game, which is great. But it's what does the game look like off the field? Because if you're a female fan, and you know the makeup of your club off the field isn't representative of what's happening on the terraces, then how can you have that affinity with your club? So we're going to start to challenge that as well over the coming years. But our main aim by the end of the season is to have 100 partner clubs, which we are way on to. Lots happening during International Women's Day week, but the reason I wanted to get involved with Her Game 2 more was because of how passionate the team is. The co-founders of Her Game 2 are incredibly passionate about saying something and actually challenging clubs and fans as to why this sort of abuse takes place. And we don't talk about sexism a lot, and we need to start to, because of the horrendous things that are said to women whilst they're watching a game of football. So really passionate about Her Game too, and the two go together really. The two go hand in hand, particularly around the manifesto points with Fair Game in terms of diversity. So diversity off the field, diversity within your boardroom, and obviously representative of being that diverse fan group, fans as well.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
You might have to edit that.
That's fine. So that brings me nicely on to the next question. So you work a lot in promoting diversity within football, which is obviously such an important area. But what to you would be the defining feature of an equal game for all? At what point would you be like, you know what, I think we've made it? Is there a defining goal or?
Yeah, absolutely. That being diversity not becoming a tick box. There has to be a point where we start to monitor and ask the questions around diversity, if that's off the field, so in a boardroom. So for me, there has to be a starting point, but then we need to then look at that diversity being diversity of thought. So men, women, BAME, people with a disability, people from different cultures, people from different areas within the community, all being representative of that community hub that works with the club and becoming the board. So more and more we're seeing changes to what board structures look like. We're nowhere near that point of where we'd say we're happy with what it looks like. But there has to be a starting point, and then there has to be a point where you look at your community, look at your fan base, and that become representative within a board structure. Eradicating sexism from the terraces, that's a huge one for me. There would be no need for Her Game 2 then, if that was the case. And then an education programme that starts to that goes into primary school, secondary school education and beyond, and talks about sexism and what it is, and educating children and young people and young adults as to what sexism is and where football was to where it is now. You know, 100 odd years ago, women didn't play football, women had no FA Cup, women weren't seen on the television, there was no media. And that has changed dramatically. And the more and more we see diversity, not just women, but diversity within the media, for example, whether that be, for example, with Alex on Football Focus, the more and more we see that, and the more and more that happens, the more the game becomes diverse, because it becomes more representative of what society is. And that's what has to change.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think, like you said, education is key. It's all about that, which leads us on to the VSI sort of.
Yes.
So what have you taken into your current roles from your CEO of a sports organisation programme? Because I know that's not currently your role, but is there still elements of it that are applicable in what you do?
I've taken a huge amount from the VSI CEO course. It opened my mind up to the type of leader that I was and that I wanted to be. And there was a lot of elements within my leadership that I wasn't happy with. But what the course has done has enabled me to connect with leaders that are either leading now or were leading in a particular role, or leaders that came on as tutors and supported us through the modules of the course, that had a number of tips, experiences, and were able to eloquently describe to us their journeys as well. And one of the best modules that we'd actually done was around your story and your journey. And it really was really thought-provoking as to the journey that I'd taken so far and where I want that kind of story to the story to continue. And there isn't failure in your career, there's just learning curves. And that's one of the areas that I really took, because having had the career that I've had, there have been ups and downs. There have been career areas that I wanted to improve on or I would do differently. And going into a new role now, I'm able to ask those questions. I'm a lot more, think a lot more about what position that I want to take. I'm a lot more, I do my due diligence a lot more in terms of the role that I would want to take. And that I think about what my values mean to me and that value match that I would aim to get with whichever job that I went into. So in terms of being honest and transparent, two key things that I've always kind of used and said I am, but really am I? And I think the VSI course gave me that opportunity to explore what openness and transparency were and how you can be that person as a leader. And the other really, really important thing from the VSI course was that you can't be an expert in everything. You might think you are as a CEO, but you bring in experts around you that can help you deliver the strategy or the vision of whatever organisation that you're part of. And to have people around you that can challenge you up, can challenge you, you can challenge them, and that trust and respect goes both ways.
Yeah, definitely. So like in what main ways do you think it's benefited or like propelled your career going forward?
So I wouldn't have got the opportunity to become part of Her Game 2 or Fair Game, because that was a connection, particularly with Fair Game, with one of the tutors, Dr. Rob Wilson. So that was a connection through himself. That then led on to delivering a number of podcasts in terms of strategy and leadership, which is always great that people are valuing what you're saying and that you've got an added value, and that's really important to me as well, as to having that added value. So people out there within the industry seeing that what I'm about and what I'm saying is valuable and can be valuable to other people as well. So that give back. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to be part of the team to lecture on the courses. So being part of that through UCFB as well is kind of another thing that I'm really passionate about. And then Her Game 2 and Fair Game have led to a number of opportunities. So I've been part of writing a book that's a couple of chapters within a book that is being launched this year before the Qatar World Cup. I won't tell you any more details about that. Everybody will have to wait for that. So that's really exciting. And then the connections it's given me with Her Game 2 and Fair Game and that wider network of football, and also the confidence and ability to write blogs and things like that on my social networks, particularly my LinkedIn. It's allowed me to be more confident in how I can talk about what I'm interested in or what might be a hot topic in terms of whether it be football or something else. And also giving me the confidence to look at a number of positions that I wouldn't have looked at previously. And within the coming days, probably towards the end of this week, there may be some news coming out. So I wouldn't have had that without the VSI course either, because what the course has given to me is a different way of thinking about how my qualities can be embedded into a leadership role. So yes, some exciting news coming out at the end of the week.
Oh, I'm excited. That all sounds...
So you'll have to keep your eye on that.
I will do. Thanks for letting me know. So how important do you think educating yourself within the industry you work in is? Because obviously by the time you started this course, you had a really developed an impressive career, but you still wanted to sort of go that extra step.
Yeah. I'm all about learning all the time. We're not experts. And I think the more you surround yourself with people that are from similar industries or have similar backgrounds or within a similar role to yourself, I think it's really important that you keep learning and keep educating yourself. Even though I'm supporting on the sporting directors and the CEO course over the next couple of weeks, I will take so much from that. And from the people that are attending the course as well. The network that the CEO course and the sporting directors course gives you is invaluable. And for me, a couple of people have asked me the thoughts on the CEO course because I'm wanting to go on it. You have to put in. If you put in, you get out. And I put an incredible amount into that. I'm not a great one for sitting down reading lots and lots of things. I prefer to talk about things and learn from other people. If it's a topic, I'll go away and research it and then discuss it. And I think for me, the CEO course is very much about putting things into practice. So the top tips that you'll get from the course enables you then to go and put that into your kind of real life, into your working life. So for me, I will continue to hopefully be part of the CEO team in terms of whether I come on board and help with the courses, any networking that we do as an alumni. It's really important to me. And I am really pleased that I went on the course because it's given me that network of people that you can just call on, and even if it's just to ask for advice. So it's kind of elevated me in that way as well.
Cool. So onto, I guess, a bit more of a light-hearted thing. So you were previously a CEO at 2 football clubs. How did you find these roles, and what was the most surprising thing about being in that position in a football club?
Yeah, so both win the National League North, both very reliant on volunteers. So really enjoyed that working relationship with volunteers. They are, and I've learned this over the last couple of years, particularly over the last year in terms of the work with Fair Game and Her Game too, that, volunteers and fans are the lifeblood of any football club, whether you're in the Premier League or whether you're a Sunday League or whether you're a one town team, whatever the club is. The fans are the most important thing. And I learned a lot whilst I was at Oldham Athletic, and come out of that and thought to myself, we didn't do things the way I would do them now, particularly with the fan base, because they're integral to the football club, the fans. And, the reason, clubs are so successful is because, one of the reasons is because of the fan base. They can challenge you, they can applaud you, they can be your best friend, they can be your enemy they want next day. But that roller coaster you go on with the fan base is exciting. And I think fans are absolutely integral to the vision and the strategy of the football club, whether that's fan owned or whether that's has 100% ownership. So working with the volunteers and the fans was integral. You learn a lot as a CEO in terms of how a business functions, and you have to understand every element of that business. So every element of the club, whether that from the events and hospitality to media to match days to health and safety. You have to be a kind of expert on all of those, but you have to have a good team around you, because you cannot, as a CEO, deliver all the objectives and the deliverables of all those areas within the business without support and guidance. And that comes with trust and respect with your kind of, even if it's your senior management team or your group of volunteers, whatever the makeup of the football club. So you have to learn very, very quickly. There isn't any downtime as a CEO. It's 365 days a year, which is fine. Learnings from the CEO course was that you need to be organised, you need to be thorough, you need to be open. You can't hide behind anything. We've all made mistakes in our careers, and it's important that you learn from that, you move on, and you don't hide from them, you're open about them. So it's a challenging job being a CEO, but if you build the right foundations with your board, you build the right foundations and strategy with your team of people, that you connect with them, you're open, that you agree action plans, you're committed to them, you have that clear communication, and you develop a high performing culture, then it almost runs itself, dare I say it.
Oh, I feel like you're being modest. It sounds you play a big part, but yeah, it sounds challenging but rewarding.
It's extremely rewarding being part of a football club. I don't think there is any role out there that is like being within a football club. There's the highs and lows of the season, there's the ups and there's the downs, there's the promotion, there's the relegation, there's the incredible work your community team do, the 24/7 work that your commercial and media teams do. It's a commitment working in football, but it is the rewards outweigh any negativity for me. But there is always going to be that negativity within any industry that you're in, and it is important that you manage that.
Yeah, definitely. So to finish, what advice would you have for anyone looking to study one of VSI's executive programs?
Sign up today. Without a doubt, sign up to the course. It has given me an incredible amount of confidence. It's allowed me to kind of reiterate to me what my values are. It's shown me that through challenges that it's not a failure, they're learnings, and I've learned from that. I'm a lot more confident in how I manage myself, my time, the strategies I've learned through managing certain elements of day-to-day life or working with Her Game 2 or Fair Game. And it also allowed me to become a lot more confident in and eloquent in how I speak about being a leader, particularly in the areas of diversity, particularly in the areas of community work, and that sustainability within a football club. And also that you're going to have challenges, but what VSI and the CEO course does is helps you manage those challenges in a better way. And that, football, particularly, obviously the industry that I am involved in, is a really great place to be, if you can go through the highs and lows.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
No, thank you. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Holly.